Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. Good to see you again, David. How was your week?
The week is going well. It's been really busy this week, and I have to say I'm kind of excited about how 2025 is starting off. So it's good. It's been a lot of sort of catch up, I guess, from a lot of things that didn't happen in December. That's normal, but all good. So I'm excited for to see what happens second half of this month.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree in terms of with BDEX, we are booked out with deconstructing data. So from what I'm seeing on my end, things are looking pretty great. People are referring their contacts. We're getting recognized by some larger brands who are coming to us to come on the show. So I would agree with you, David. I think overall, the entire brand is just doing really great in 2025. And I'm excited about today's episode. It's the same sort of thing. We've got another really great show. And I'm excited to bring on today's guest. He is John Telford. He's Chief Client Officer at Bounteous, and with nearly 30 years in digital marketing, he's a pro in e-com, startups, data, AI, and customer experience design. Like a lot of our guests that we're bringing on, we are about to learn a lot. So welcome to the show, John.
Hey, everybody, and thanks for having me on. Really excited for today's conversation.
Yeah, same here, John. We're excited to have you on the show, and we'd love for you to kick it off for us. So why don't you go ahead and for our listeners and viewers, give us a little background. What's your story? Tell us a little history about what led you to become the Chief Client Officer at Bounteous.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I mean, it's a long and winding road how I got there. As I said at the intro, been involved in the ecosystem for 30 years, which is a little scary. My hair doesn't show it, but my goatee does. I actually got my start in the advertising space when I was in college. And actually the first ad I ever created was for the student newspaper. I worked for the MSU Computer Store, Michigan State University, Go Green, and created a digital ad. But very quickly, this is in the late 90s, saw the power of what we might be able to unlock using the web. We had internet throughout the entire campus, and all the departments were slowly coming online as well. And we had a website that was pretty rudimentary. You could download a couple PDFs, and I was a curious guy and asked if I could play around with it for a little bit. And in my free time, ended up building an e-commerce site at Michigan State University that was running the computer store. And back in those days, there wasn't all the specialization that there was. So this would make potentially some people cringe. I was doing the design and making the images, gradients everywhere, but also building the website and writing my own cookies. And that kind of led to me working in the .com days, eventually found a real love for consulting and helping individuals use technology to solve problems and demystifying a lot of things that people try to make overly obtuse. And then, I've been lucky enough to be at Bounteous for over a decade and a half. I've worked in almost every part of our business, driving a lot of the innovation we did with Domino's Pizza, helping launch their online ordering many moons ago, working as a strategic advisor and client executive for some of our large accounts like Zipcar and Caesars Entertainment. And then most recently, moving into this Chief Client Officer role and really helping our entire organization be aligned with how we're going to help our clients drive value from the work that we're doing, and using what we like to call co-innovation to not just build better things, but to do things better. And finding those two ways of value creation has really been the key to our company's success. So it's been a long and winding road for me to get here, but I'm excited it brought me to talking with the two of you today.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And we have some really great topics.
Yeah, that's a great journey. And it's, similar to mine, having, been very early in the internet days. But wasn't Domino's like one of the first pizza places that you could online order?
It really was, and it was innovative at the time. To let you know how long ago I was working with Domino's, one of the projects we worked on was launching their mobile ordering platform. So you could not just do it on a browser, you could do it on a phone. And the company, the three platforms we launched on was iPhone, Android, and Palm Pre. And, they've really, they are one of the biggest innovators that you will find in e-commerce and customer experience. And, I'm really lucky that part of my career was spent working with them.
Interesting. Can you imagine knowing then what you know now, just where things are going with AI and imagining the dial-up? I'm imagining the process of like ordering a pizza from Domino's then and what that might have been like online.
Yeah, no, it was really exciting and interesting, and they were at the forefront and really visionaries at what was possible with online ordering. They launched the Pizza Builder, which allowed you to dynamically see your pizza being built and what the toppings were look like. And it was really, they invested a lot of time, money, and energy in the user experience with it. And it really drove a lot of stickiness and customer satisfaction. And then they launched innovations that we take for granted, like the pizza tracker. Almost every quick service restaurant has some form of online delivery tracking. Maybe it's simple text messages you're getting to your phone. But 10, 15 years ago, Domino's was really at the forefront, just not just in technology, but in user experience as well. I don't know if you recall this, but the pizza trackers could be branded or skinned. Sometimes it might have a baseball theme. Sometimes it would actually be playing heavy metal music. All these like innovations that were driven by Domino's. And one of the fun things is it really drove better results. When you look at the performance of Domino's over the last 15 years, it outperforms almost every other company you see, not just in the dining ecosystem, but across every ecosystem. So they're one of the brands we look to for their expertise and everything they bring to the table. It's been really great.
That's
awesome. And it's going to be interesting to see as they start to sort of employ some AI into their business, how they drive change in that industry as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, both for them and across. The QSR ecosystem is really interesting. There's a ton of innovation there, and they're really pushing the bar, not just at Domino's, but across a lot of that footprint. You'll see AI coming to like reservations, to ordering. There's even you'll see some drive-up windows that are experimenting with full AI agents supporting the drive-through ordering experience. So, like you were saying, if we knew then what we knew now, what would that think like? I mean, candidly, and this starts to get to our conversation today, I don't have any clue what the world's going to look like in 5 years with all the changes and disruption of data and AI, et cetera. It feels like those times back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years.
Definitely. And it does lead into our conversation. So data's role in all of it and preparing for AI insights. Could you kick us off with this, John?
Yeah, absolutely. And so looking at over the last couple of years, there's a couple ways you can analyze various trends. So there's been a lot of hype going around everything from the metaverse to blockchain to crypto to NFTs, et cetera, and so on. And I remember 24 months or even 18 months ago, people were almost lumping generative AI and some of the innovations that were starting to come out of OpenAI and elsewhere. Oh, it's just going to be another metaverse type thing. But what the last 6 to 12 months has really proven is it's not. It's completely different. So standing on the sidelines of AI and generative AI and waiting to see how it's going to play out before you set your company strategy is just not an option anymore. And almost every company we talk to is acknowledging this. And so you have to get started with AI. There's risk associated with it, both in data and governance, et cetera. But standing on the sidelines isn't the option. So when we look at what organizations are doing to get started and take kind of those first initial steps, you have to do it safely. And so that's why one of the most important things as you're looking at AI use cases, as you're looking at evaluating tools and technology, you really need to prepare your organization for the change that is coming. And what we see, we've done internally and we advise to most of our clients is some type of AI governance or AI Center of Excellence committee that can get ahead of the questions, get ahead of the users, and make sure there's the right security, controls, and risk management in place so you can experiment with AI safely. But at the same time, also embedding key executives and line of business members in that team so they can participate in pushing and driving the business. But we found the most successful companies are the ones that are forming these small tiger teams that are enabled and empowered to make decisions so that they can accelerate the rest of the business. It's almost too big a topic for everyone to get up to speed and the entire organization to be informed on what information they need to make decisions. But things are moving too fast to wait. So that's why getting started with data and AI, the first step is really getting that small community of experts, including the business sponsors, educated and engaged, so that they can accelerate the rest of your business.
I think that's really smart. And I like the sort of the angle of AI governance.
Yeah.
We talk about data governance a lot on the show, and I think AI governance is sort of, similar but different, right? Because, there's data and a lot of the data is used, or could be used for AI. But when you're talking about AI governance, you're talking about like, how are we using AI, and how are we determining, the transparency within the company, with the clients, customer base, with respect to how AI is being used. And I think that that's a really interesting concept that it's important for companies to think about, large and small.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touch on one of the key points around transparency. There's this mantra of move fast and break things, which is often it's a good instinct to get people out of a rut. But when it comes to using data and then using AI to make decisions or even interactions on that data, move fast and break things doesn't work. There's too much that could go wrong, which is why, one of the mantras we use internally is move fast, but don't break trust, don't break transparency. And sometimes that means you need to have additional human interactions looking at what decisions AI is making based on the data coming in, looking at what potential bias or drift is coming from the data sets that you're ingesting, and then using AI to make decisions off of. And it's not just a one-time thing where you set it and get it. And that's where the parallels, I think, are between data governance and AI governance. They're closely related. With data governance, you don't just, establish your mechanism and, your catalog and your dictionaries and all that kind of stuff and set it and forget it. You got to continually monitor it and ensure you have the right hygiene to ensure that your data is staying quality, because otherwise, it's chaos theory. Everything will drift towards entropy. You always have to be working to ensure you have the right data governance. It's the same with AI. It's not just about establishing the right controls at the beginning. It's about ensuring that you're monitoring the outcomes proactively so that you're mitigating the risk that your clients could have. So there's a lot that can be learned on the AI governance from a lot of what we know in the data governance ecosystem.
Yeah, and getting back to that sort of transparency topic, so important that the customer is made aware of how their information is being used, in these sort of AI features, that a lot of these, a lot of these websites are starting to come out with, and Reddit got in a lot of trouble. A lot of people got upset when they found out that their posts were being used for AI. I think that level of transparency is going to be crucial for anybody that's using, whether it be public data or even data that's within an environment, if that data is going to be used for an AI feature.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's where, when I talk about this AI governance committee, that's where they have to be really up to speed on both the standards. ISO has AI specific standards that they've published in like 42001 and elsewhere. NIST has brought out standards as well, and you need to be leveraging those. And then you also need to be looking at the regulatory landscape, both at what individual states might be doing, like California, what's going on at a country level like the US with some of the regulations and guidelines they're putting out. And then also if you're doing business in EMEA, the EU has come out with some really good structure and controls that augment GDPR that you need to be cognizant of. And candidly, it's almost too much of an intellectual load to ask everybody to be up to speed on everything. And that's why you need to have a enabled and empowered team that can enable you to move fast and make those decisions for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Great point. We still need to have humans in the mix, right? We can't just fully hand it over to AI yet, which I know many people are always relieved to hear people say that. But speaking of kind of the flow of things, let's transition into the next topic of data and AI and creating a digital flow.
Yeah, and so it's a great topic, and this is something we talk a lot about with our clients and with analysts and other people in the market of digital flow. And what we're talking about digital flow, it's not just about feed data into a machine, magic happens and something spits out the other end. But digital flow is basically a mechanism that you're trying to unlock power within your business. And really that power is getting into a continuous feedback loop of leveraging the data you have, identifying insights outside of that data, using those insights to create new experiences that then in turn will create data that you can use to generate the next insight. So there's almost like this flywheel you can imagine of data driving insights, insights driving experiences, and those experiences creating data that you can use for your next leap. We were talking about Domino's coincidentally at the beginning of this conversation, and that's something they've done very well. By them moving their customer base online to Domino's.com, they're generating more data. And by using that data, they're able to generate insights. So they were able to determine that, hey, our customers have a better experience when they can see the food product that they're about to buy. So they use that insight to make investments and justify investments like the pizza tracker. And that drives more people to use Domino's.com, which gives them more data that they can use to create a better customer experience and have innovations like the pizza tracker that enables users to have a better understanding of what their pizza looks like, when their pizza is going to arrive, who's going to bring it there, and when to be ready to answer the door. And those insights stack up on top of each other. And so that's really what the goal is. You want to get your entire organization aligned around creating data, unlocking insights from that data that you can use to create customer experiences, and having those customer experiences ideally create new data points that can fuel the next evolution. And then the exciting thing is using the power of AI, you unlock the opportunity to have some of those innovations and those experiences maybe even be dynamically created. But it's a little bit of getting that flywheel started and getting that momentum within your company and that culture within your company to produce that continual improvement.
And as you build that flywheel and you start to get everyone educated, how do you adjust? Because as you mentioned, you don't know where we're going to be in 5 years with all the changes that are coming up, and this kind of leads into a question from the audience from Jeff Rubin. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But he's on LinkedIn and he's asking, how do you work with clients to keep up with the pace of change we're seeing in AI?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Jeff. Thanks for asking. One of the pillars of how people need to think about AI today is continually learning and educating themselves. The market is moving so fast right now. Even, we were talking about getting back to January 2025. I'm seeing in product announcements, in company investments, the pace of change is 2 to 3 times what it was 6 months ago as it pertains to AI. There's still a lot of noise and a lot of hype. I don't want to say the hype is over, but there is actually a lot of real investments and real value that clients are starting to unlock. And so the only thing you can do is be curious, stay up to date, and stay flexible. One of the most important things as you're looking at your AI investments is short planning cycles. Because if you're developing an AI solution and you've got a 6-month capital procurement project process, by the time you get through that process 6 months later, the ecosystem in the market has already moved beyond where it was. So you got to look for those incremental investments that you can make in AI based on where the technology is, and get into that digital flow state where you're continually optimizing and enhancing it. Now, where you can make significant investments and have the confidence that they're going to be durable, that's in data. What we were talking about at the beginning is data hygiene, data quality, data pipelines, etc. That's where you want to be ensuring that you're investing for the long term, because no matter what road AI takes us down, the better quality of data that you have and that you own and you're able to collect, the better AI solutions are going to be. So the AI solutions themselves, I think, are going to rapidly evolve over the next 36 months. To continue is the companies that are able to get the most value out of them are going to have the best data and are going to be the best at getting that digital flow of insights to experiences to more data to insights.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's absolutely true. The one comment I wanted to make about earlier when you're talking about the flywheel, I think that is one of the most intriguing things about AI, when you can actually create this feedback loop that is actually essentially, educating your AI and being able to get better and better and better at what it does. It's one thing to be able to create a tool where, AI or some form of machine learning is being used to generate some process and do something for you, but it's a whole other level when you're talking about being able to use it to implement something, but implementing that creates more data that feeds it and enables it to learn further and get better and better at what it does. And I think that that's where you'll start to see that sort of exponential effect of, performance and improvement in AI.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not just hype, and it's not just theoretical. It's actually real. We have a client that we've worked with where we developed an AI agent to help them prototype some brand messaging. Given a certain promotion or offer they were looking to run, what is some taglines we could use on social media or, email or what have you. It's a pretty common use case for generative AI, and it's one that's been around for a while. But one of the things that when you're thinking about how you can leverage it, that's one layer you can do, is help it get better. But when you're then able to take the data from the AI agent that generated maybe 25 different taglines, you feed that back into the machine. These 5 performed really well, these 20 didn't perform as well. And it's pretty straightforward these days to almost have a second agent that is informed based on the performance of your previous experiments, kind of judging what comes out of, maybe the idea agent. And so we're seeing that where it's not just about leveraging AI to generate new content, but you can actually, and this is where the agentic architectures and all that stuff is coming to play. You start like stitching these things together and have agents interacting with agents. And you're automating a lot of what was previously manual tasks. And so there's a lot of opportunity that's going to take a different way of thinking about the problems and the work you're doing, that the democratization of AI opens up, where it used to be, you needed some really expensive software or some really expensive machine learning experts. This is something that people are able to do with the right corporate policies, governance, et cetera, via a lot of the LLMs and stuff today. So it really is empowering and accelerating that innovation cycle.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Back to the word democratization, which comes up quite often, mostly data democratization, at least in the beginning of our podcast, in the early episodes. And I don't know, maybe not as much AI, but we did get another question from the audience. So wanted to drop it. What industries are leading the way in creating digital flow, and what can others learn from them? This is from Layla Tembo on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So the industries that are going to be the fastest getting going with digital flow are where they're able to engage with their clients and customers and prospects and markets using digital channels. So that's why, I talked about QSR at the beginning. There's a lot of innovation because so much of when we place an order on DoorDash or Grubhub, or we're using, placing an order from Tropical Smoothie Cafe or Noodles & Co., we're using our phones. And so they're able to quickly capture that and get into that feedback loop because there is so much data. One of the other places we see a lot of innovation is in ecosystems like travel and hospitality. So airlines, hotels, et cetera, and so on, even, online casinos. There's a lot of data that they're able to gather as you interact with them that is really valuable. And we're seeing other industries start to identify ways to better engage with their customers in a digital context. Even, traditional CPGs and, fast-moving consumer goods, et cetera. They're looking to harness the power of digital interaction so they can learn about their customers and be able to generate new insights and drive innovation faster. And that's why, there's a lot of interesting things related to data, but like using offline data to create digital twins or, connect different repositories of data and have virtual interactions with clients. So there's some low-hanging fruit in where, the customer interaction, the customer experience is already, digital and easily, tracked. But we're seeing a lot of innovation and experimentation where companies are either, moving some of their customers online and using things like lookalike models and stuff, or even using offline data to do digital twins or personas or virtual focus groups, et cetera. It's really powerful once you get kind of that flywheel going.
Very interesting. Well, I don't know, David, do you have any comments on basically anything you just said, or the second topic, or that question that we got before I transition us into the 4 pillars?
Yeah, no, I think that I agree with everything that that you said, John. But I think that also we're seeing just in sort of digital advertising as a whole a lot of innovation and digital flow that you're going to see. There's so many new technologies that are in the works, and a lot of the digital advertising platforms are starting to employ more and more AI to improve ad performance, especially because of some of the regulatory changes and tracking and things like that that have prevented them from using the old traditional methods of using cookies and things like that. They've had to employ AI to start learning, in real time how, what ads and what campaigns are performing better and better so that they can further improve. And I think that there are a few examples that I've seen where they've actually tested and found that some of these new methods are actually working even better than some of the old targeting methods now.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Just in the advertising ecosystem alone, we're at a real inflection point. We've had what we thought was going to be a sudden death, but has been turned into more of a long fade of third-party cookies as one kind of forcing function that's been out there. But then, we've had these other external forces related to data privacy and regulatory changes. And then you combine that with, 24 months ago, I don't think anybody really thought AI was going to be pushing the digital advertising ecosystem as much as it was, and really creating this huge appetite and demand for data that was even more than it was before. And so it's really going to be an interesting 24 to 36 months, I think, in the digital advertising space. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of challenges. There's been a lot of people have been moving different careers, different jobs, and it's created this really unique opportunity. I think it's going to be very interesting to look back 5 years from now at some of the companies that are started at this time or go through real big pivots at this time, because I think we're in a very volatile state as far as technology and data and regulations are concerned. And I think there's some great opportunities to be had. But, the only guarantee is the way things are working today and what's, enabled success for, companies and brands today. It's going to probably be pretty different 3-4 years from now. So I'm really excited to see, what happens in the startup ecosystem right now and some of the new ad tech platforms and just different ways of thinking. I think it's going to be really transformational versus the last, prior 10 years, it was kind of linear. I think we're about to go through a little step function right now.
Yeah, big time. Absolutely.
Very exciting. And we've got more engagement from the audience, again from Jeff, and he's asking, what's the most important thing or things to assess about your current data as you get ready to drive AI adoption? You want to take that one, John?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I'd be curious if you have anything to add to it. But it goes back to fundamentals. First of all, everything, like I said at the top, has to start with trust, security, privacy, and governance. So before you use any data for AI, do you have permission to? And are you handling it in a secure manner? There's so many different risks associated with using your data for AI. You have to be sure you've got that foundational kind of safety net in place. And that's why we advocate internally and for our clients is to always start with that governance step, because it's what's giving you the safety and the permission to kind of move to the next step. But beyond that, it's a lot of the fundamentals of data hygiene data hygiene and data governance that we've been talking about. You've been talking about on the podcast, and we've been talking about in the industry for the last couple of years. And a lot of those fundamentals still apply in an AI-centric world. It's just some of the risks are a lot higher because you're pushing more and more data potentially outside the walls of your ecosystem. So you want to be really careful with how you're handling that. And additionally, how you're training your employees, depending on what your use cases are, to handle that, because there's just huge opportunities for data leakage that can have significant implications. And, nobody wants to see your confidential data showing up as being used to train other models and having it show up as results to your competitors' prompts.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing I'd add to that just is to sort of further stress, you mentioned data hygiene, and I think that that's a really important one to think about, is that, whether the data that you're using is product generated or user generated, the quality of that data is crucial to your outcome. And so that's one thing that needs to be addressed ahead of time to make sure that, the same thing, garbage in, garbage out, always applies, and applies exponentially to AI.
100%.
Jesse, you're on mute.
I apologize. As we've heard on deconstructing data, data is your oil, data is your electricity. I think we heard a couple weeks ago. And so you want to make sure that you have quality fueling your AI. But thanks for getting in and answering that question for the audience, both of you. Want to make sure we save time for the 4 pillars.
Yeah.
What are your 4 pillars, John?
Yeah, so we've talked about the flywheel of digital flow and how you can start with your data, generate insights off of that data that create new experiences that in turn create new data for you to drive new insights on. And looking at that as a flywheel, how do you get it started, and where do you make the investments to start moving it faster? And so when we work with clients and even internally here as well, there's 4 pillars that we want to evaluate for your organization to assess your readiness and ability to increase the velocity of that flywheel. Talent, methods, technology, and of course, data. So starting with talent, do you have the right people within your organization and within your partner ecosystem that understands, has the experience and expertise to leverage the tools you have? Do you have the right methods? Do you have process? Are you using lean? Are you using agile? Do you have the right OKRs about your business in place? Do you have the right methodology in place to provide that structure? Technology, have you made the right investments in tools for experimentation and A/B testing and AI? Have you made the right technology investments? And then finally, the 4th pillar is data. Do you have the right data so you can get this flywheel spinning? And the important thing is it's kind of a decision-making paradigm, because you can always invest more in talent, tech, methods, or data, but which ones should you be investing in, and in what order? Because they're all interrelated, and they're only going to be as strong as the weakest link. For instance, if you have you have great talented teams, you have the technology that's world-class, and your methodology is on par, but you don't have any data, you're just going to be shooting from the hip and making decisions based on instincts. If you have great talent, great data, and great methodology, but you don't have the right technology, everything's going to be manual and you can't move fast enough. And if you have data, talent, and technology, but you don't have a good methodology, you don't have a good process, everything's going to be a fire drill and you're going to be living in chaos. So when you're looking at getting that flywheel first started and then spinning faster, having a framework for how you're going to assess your ability across those 4 paradigms, and then where you make investments internally or where you pull in a partner ecosystem is really the most important thing. So one of the things we talk about here a lot at Bounteous is co-innovation. And co-innovation is all about that flywheel of digital flow, because it's always going to take an ecosystem of pulling in the best of data, talent, tech, and methods. You're never going to be able to do it on your own. You're always going to have to drive co-innovation that's collaborative between service providers, agencies, data providers, technology providers, etc. If you can get all those groups and organizations aligned towards a common goal, that's when you can get the digital flow flywheel spinning. And that's where you can start driving great results. And it's not just about getting it spinning. It's about every week, every month, every quarter, having that discipline. Okay, looking at talent, tech, methods, and data. Where do I need to focus on for the next 6 months? Where do I need to make the investments that are going to spin that flywheel faster? So it's what we have found to be extremely useful in helping to accelerate results for clients, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. And creating better results, creating better experiences, creating better innovations that are reducing costs, or allowing us to leverage more AI, or allowing us to leverage agents, getting in that constant rhythm and flow of data to insights to experiences to more data is what we have found to be the recipe for success. And you build that on top of your talent, methods, technology, and data.
Mm.
That's awesome, John. I really appreciate you sharing that with our audience. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Mm. Which of these pillars would you say are most overlooked, which is a question from the audience?
That's a great question. We have an abundance. Honestly, we have more technology than we know what to do with at most organizations. So that's usually the strong point, is people usually have the right technology. And data, the biggest problem is probably governance. We're in a world of, I think the expression is water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Sometimes we have a problem of data everywhere, but not an insight to be had. So technology and data are usually there. Usually it's the talent or the methods. So maybe you haven't invested in your people enough and trained them enough on things like AI, things like data, things like the latest tools out in the market and the technology you've already bought. Maybe you haven't trained your staff well enough. We also see it a lot in methodology. Methodology is often overlooked, and people think if I have a stand-up, I'm doing Agile right or I'm doing Lean right. And so that's where there's often some hard work to do, but it's where you start to get the most dynamic improvement out of it. So I would say, talent and methods is often the most overlooked, because data and technology is somewhat easier to fix.
Mm. Such a great point and a great way to wrap up. Thank you so much to the audience for the great questions. And of course, John, thank you so much for taking the time to come out and talk with us. We are about out of time, but before we go, would you like to tell listeners how they could reach you if they wanted to reach out after the show?
Yeah, absolutely. Easy to find me on LinkedIn. Just search for John Telford Bounteous, or you can there's about 100 of us on LinkedIn. You can also go to johntelford.net and you'll be able to find my LinkedIn profile.
Awesome. Thanks, John. We really appreciate you joining us on the show today. This has been fantastic. And I think that our audience got a lot of great insights from this conversation. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And before we go ahead and put our QR code up here real quick for anyone watching. Go ahead and scan that with your phone, or just head on over to beatex.com, because we want to invite you to get powered by Beatex. And we want to build authentic connections with you to help you engage your audience and build unprecedented growth. So, we're talking a lot about AI, and just imagine harnessing the power of AI to craft audiences that truly harness the message that you're trying to send, that resonates with your brand, ensuring that your marketing hits the mark every time. So we want to bring you closer to those marketing efforts. So just reach out to us, scan that code, or go to beatex.com and talk to an expert, and we'll help you get powered by Beatex. And for those of you who are curious about coming on the show, we would love to have you. We are booking up through 2025. We are going to start opening up more slots for some paid opportunities. If you would like to get in on a Tuesday, it's an opportunity we have started offering. But otherwise, for our regular Thursday episodes, we're booking up. So reach out if you're thinking about doing so. And you can do so at info@beatex.com. Please reach out, share the guests that you'd like to have on, as well as any feedback you have about the show. But share your qualitative data with us so we can make the show better for you. And thank you again, John, for coming on the show.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks again. Bye-bye.